So today we're going to work with arm balances, not just getting straight into one pose, it's just trying to articulate our way there. I think in classes or you see videos, people just pop into them and you're like, how? So we're going to work in ways to kind of get into that. First, we're going to start with the wrists because they'll be our foundation. We don't usually balance in the hands, so the strength in the forearms and the wrist and the hands may not be there. So it is great to kind of work that strength. So you're going to take your hands out in front of you, and you're going to open and close the fists as quickly as possible. You can't stop until I say so. Again, quite sadistic. You want to keep going until it kind of burns. Just flicking. It looks very quite boring, but you can spice it up, reaching the arms overhead, going all over the place. Whatever you want to do, I want you to keep flicking the hands. And we want to really work on pumping the forearms. So I'm going to say, we'll do it for like 30 seconds. You can talk to me about your day. Tell me how great you are. Tell me how many things you have to do. I don't know. We're just wasting time, guys. Flick, 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 flick. Oh, I'm starting to burn. I find one arm burns way more than the other, so I try and speed up on the other side a little bit more. Oh, right forearm is like crying. Just for 10 more seconds, really spreading the fingers. 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, oh God, 1. Shake it out. So we're going to do a similar thing, but we're going to think about the front of the forearm, or the back, who knows. We're thinking about the extension muscles. So instead, you're going to think about pressing the forearms up towards the ceiling, and then you're just going to pump your fist towards you. Again, about 10 or 20 of these. What is great is adding a weight to this, or even like a tin of beans. I haven't had beans on toast in a while. It's very British, but tin of beans. You're just pulsing the knuckles up towards the ceiling, really pressing elbows up just for a few more seconds, and then release and shake it out. We're going to come to all fours and work on the articulation of the hands. Ooh, forearms are really working there. So you can be on all fours. You want to spread those fingers nice and wide. And again, we want the weight roughly in the underside of the knuckles. So you can just play working on shifting the weight forwards. Now, in an arm balance, we want a lot of protraction. So we want the shoulder blades to be nice and rounded. A good way to do this is, again, you're thinking about sliding the fingertips forwards or the skin of the hands forwards and then pushing the ground away. A squeeze of the elbows, and then I like to lean the weight over each knuckle. So I want to feel the weight go from the pinky knuckle to the middle finger, to the thumb, to the other hand, and switching sides. Lovely. So we've got our traction, our rounding from the upper back. Another thing that we forget about is the serratus. So this supports the shoulder. It's this big superhero muscle that you see on like Spider-Man, Superman, this strong muscle here. So you can do this in all fours or take it to a plank. I'm going to show you in a plank because it'll be funnier. I'm going to fall. It's funny to watch people fall sometimes, as long as they're not hurt. So you're going to come to a plank first, and we're going to do a bit of a stepping out motion. So you're tucking the pelvis, squeezing your glutes. You're going to take the left hand forwards, then out to the left, forwards, out to the left, right hand forwards, out to the right. You're going to keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going, and you're going to hold it to your max, pushing the ground away, tucking the pelvis. We're here for 3, we're crying for 2, and 1. Just plopped out. Another way to do that, building the muscles in your serratus, is on the forearms. So you can be on the forearms and do this. I'm really enjoying laying down like this though, guys. So I like to bring the elbows underneath the shoulders. We want another squeeze of the elbows in, so just to help that external rotation. So tucking the toes, lifting your bum. You want the hips roughly in line with the shoulders. Really squeeze the elbows together, and you're just going to shift weight forwards and back. You can walk your toes all the way back as far as you can go. Ooh, holding for 3, maybe longer, 2, and plopping down again. Again, this is somewhere you can rest. You can do this a couple times. And it just starts building strength in not just the hands. It works the core a little bit. And again, more importantly, your serratus, supporting the shoulder a little bit more. So we're going to play with a crow pose first. Again, if you can't do a crow pose, don't worry. If you fall, don't worry. The floor is going to catch you. Or you can put a bunch of pillows around, okay? So I'm going to come. Nice, easy way first is grabbing blocks, okay? Ignore my subtle, slinky crawl. It's very appealing. So You can get into the shape without actually getting your feet off the ground. What I'm going to do is creep onto the blocks. I would not suggest standing up and then going on them because that is a tricky situation, okay? So all I'm going to do is I'm going to come to a little frog position and just step onto the blocks. Woo, tiptoes on the blocks. Again, if you've just started practicing, you might want to have the arms inside the legs rather than outside. So we're going to do arms inside. So again, you want to bend the elbows. I feel like a little bird or something. You're going to bend the elbows, or Spider-Man on top of the Empire State Building. You're going to bend the elbows and wiggle them a little bit lower than the shin bones. You want the arms, hands, just roughly shoulder width apart. I'm losing track of my brain here. I need more grapes. So back to Empire State Building. You want to bend those elbows, bring them a little lower so the bicep is in line with the crease of the knee. Taking the hands a little wider, again, we want them to be shoulder width apart. Hands come down. Now, we're basically in a crow pose already. You're just going to lift your bum a tiny bit and then use your knees to squeeze your arms push back. Now, what you don't want to do is look down. If you look down, that is where you're going to go, okay? You want to think bum lift slightly and then lift with the chest. You want to start shifting the weight forwards, like we're going to do a chaturanga or a plank. You're going to come to the tips of your toes, squeezing, and maybe you're like, oh, this is it for me, and you stay here. If you've had crow pose for a while and you're working with practice, maybe squeezing one heel up, maybe the other, maybe you find some air time, maybe you're like, oh crap, I need to come down. The blocks are there. Lovely little crack there. Coming down. Again, that's one way. Again, I always like to work with the shift forwards. So you can do this with a wall, if you're quite scared, or a pillow in front of you. Just working with shift. So it can be like a chaturanga. Again, tuck of the pelvis, elbow creases facing forward, shift weight forwards, and it's really leaning, and at the last moment, you're drawing elbows back. So we have a lot of the weight forwards. Hard already, and you push back, okay? Another way to do this is by a wall, and you can actually come to a crow pose. I'm not going to use wall, but you can, okay? I like to be on the tips of the toes and use the foot as my way to shift forward rather than having somewhere to aim. Again, elbows lower than the shin bones, upper arm in the crease of the knee. Hands will be nice and wide, and you're working with that shift forward. So if you watch my feet, I'm shifting until I get to the tips of the toes. I keep my chest lifted, and I'm squeezing here. So this shift is what is going to get you into most arm balances, okay? And then you can work, instead of trying to send the head down and get the feet up, much harder, you want to think about hamstring activation, one heel up, and then the other. Whew. Again, you can try that on your own. Stop it, pause me, and have a go a couple of times. Or you're like, oh, I'm ready for something else. You can take it a little further, maybe into a side crow. Again, this time it's different. There's not much of a shift forward, there's more of a rotation of the hips. So pick a side, your favorite side. Could be left or right, sometimes we're stronger on one side. For me personally, I find it a lot easier to figure something out on my strongest side and then work on incorporating it on the weaker side. Again, you'll want to try more on the weaker side. But finding a rotation, so I like to bring opposite arm by opposite crease of the knee. And then I'm going to bring my hands down to the ground, but I want the hand that is by the knee in line with the little toe. Other hand is a little further away, but we want both hands in line. And instead of lifting the chest and leaning forwards, that's going to be really hard, it's going to be really heavy. So what you want to add is more rotation of the hips. So I'm going to think about leaning left hip forward. So I'm turning my hips as much as I can. So bum is going up and over as I subtly shift the weight forward, but there's more rotation. The more you rotate your hips, the feet will come off the ground. Squeezing heels up. Again, just because I'm saying come off the ground, you might be here like, oh, Jesus Christ. And that's okay. You want to focus on that shift forward, that lift of the chest, okay? Again, you might want to play that a couple times on each side. But when you feel like quite solid in an arm balance or quite strong, you can start changing things, make it a bit funky. So one way I like is on one forearm and one hand, and you can make it a little bit tricky. I'm going to show you at the end. So I like to start from a grounded position. Toes are tucked. I'm going to bring right elbow down to the ground, come to my tippy toes, and then I still want that elbow knee crease. Right elbow is down, and again, you still want the rotation. The left hand wants to Left hand wants to be nice and grounded. You want to get their elbow over the wrist. So again, you have your little twisty twist. We're on right forearm. We're leaning the weight forward. But again, you have that turning of the hips and maybe the feet lift. Really squeezing elbow and hand together. Maybe you're here, maybe you're crying. You can even turn this into something else. Maybe changing the legs. Maybe not. Maybe you're like, what is he doing? I can't do that. And that's okay. Okay, it's just finding where you can move, where you can feel that shift, we can find that balance. One thing I like to do in that funky sort of transition is play with lifting the feet up and down. I'm warning you now, I may not be able to do it, but that's okay. It is entirely perfect to be imperfect, okay? I'm going to play first on my strong side, the good side. Again, we want that twist and rotation. You have to use the legs to kick out to the side as well. So I've got my little twist. Normal side crow, hands are nice and wide. Again, I'm working on chest up, leaning forwards, turning the hips as much as I can towards that knee, that hand that is in contact with the knee. Okay, so left hand goes over to the side. And then from here, if you want to try turning it into a funky one, you're going to send the legs out, but draw the right elbow back at the same time. Weird and fun. But to get back, we need to squeeze heels in, pushing down through the hand. Maybe come back. Whew. That is hard. I'm not going to lie to you. Can I do it on my left side? No, but it's fun to play with. We can try it. Should we laugh at me? That's cool too. We'll try on the left side. What helps is the swing of the legs. So you want to use the legs to give you that momentum. Again, dodgy side. Opposite hand, opposite knee. You're going to shift the weight forwards. And again, instead of just forwards, you're thinking hips over towards the hand that is in contact with the knee. Turning, 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 turning. Maybe legs go forwards and you're drawing left elbow back. Oh. Can we get back up? No. And that is cool as well. I think it's just laughing at yourself, playing with things. Arm balances should be silly. They should be weird, and that is entirely okay. I think trying to move or working towards moving is super cool and super important. So give yourself a pat on the back. Well done.